before April break. And VHS, or like virtual high school applications, are open, and more people seem to be applying than available spots are open. Some people are applying for like AP classes that aren't offered at our school, while others are just applying for like fun electives. Also, the juniors had an assembly with Stephen Hill, a national speaker on mental health and substance use prevention, where he shared his inspiring comeback story. And finally, exchange students from Japan visited, and they got to shadow their pen pals from the pen pal program for a day, providing an educational experience for everybody. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Anybody have any questions, comments? Thanks a lot. Good stuff. Okay. Abhishek, did you have anything you wanted to add?
No, she pretty much hit everything right on the head.
Awesome. Well, we have something very exciting for you now, the AHS chorus. And we're going to get out of the way.
So, hi, everybody. As you know, this past weekend, our bands and chorus participated with about 10,000 other students from around the state. There was 165 bands and 96 choruses, the middle and high school level, in the Massachusetts Instrumental and Choral Conductors Association Adjudication Festival. We are very proud of our music department. The Ashland High School Concert Band White earned a silver medal. The Ashland High School Concert Band Blue earned a silver medal. The Ashland Middle School Wind Ensemble earned a gold medal. And tonight we have with us the Ashland High School Concert Choir, who earned a silver medal. I'm going to introduce their teacher, Miss Mary Namath, to tell you a little bit about their performance.
Hello, everyone. My name is Mary Namath. I am the director at the high school. So we sang 3 pieces at MICA this weekend, and we had to sing an a cappella piece, a piece in a world language, and a second piece, or a third piece. And we're going to sing our a cappella piece. It is called Connected, and it is going to be our one song that is going to bridge into our spring concert, and the theme is Elevating LGBTQ plus Voices, and that is on May 15 at 7 p.m. All right, shall we do it? Great.
You are me. That's what I said. I am. You are me. Don't you see? I am. You are me. That's what I said. I am. You are me. Don't you see? I am. You are me. That's what I said. I am. You are me. Don't you see?
Seems like I'm over here and you're over there, but there is something between us that's greater than air. Seems like I'm over here and you're over there, but there is something between us that's greater than air. Seems like through the confusion, it's not hard to tell. It's just an illusion. It's me and you. See through the confusion, it's not hard to tell. It's just an illusion. It's me and you. See through the confusion, it's not hard to tell. It's just an illusion.
Subatomically,
See through the confusion, it's not hard to tell. It's just an
subatomically,
I am a part of you, you are a part of me, and so together we are one body. I am inside your head, you are inside my heart. We fit together, perfect from the start.
I am. You are me. That's what I said. I am. You are me. Don't you
It
see?
seems like I'm over here, I'm over here, you're over there, you're over there. There is something between us and air. It seems like I'm over here, I'm over here, you're over there, you're over there. But there is something between us and air. See through the confusion, it's not hard to do. It's just an illusion.
Subatonically,
See through the confusion.
inside your head, you are inside my heart. We fit together, perfect from the start. I am a part of you, you are a part of me, and so together we are one body. I am inside your head, you are inside my heart. We fit together, perfect from the start.
Sure. That's the best part of the whole night, anyway. It's only downhill from now. It's only going downhill. It's only downhill from here. No, we get approve a good trip to Quebec City. That'd be great.
I think we have to do the warrant approvals first. Just get it over with. Yeah, that was great. So good.
Good way to start today.
Yeah, we're in much better moods now. All right, Paul. Warrant approvals, please?
Right, between March 13th, 2025 and April 9th, 2025, I, Paul Kendall, authorized by my signature payables in the amount of $944,214.27. This includes general fund expenses of $655,941.68, revolving expenses of $271,310.27, grant expenses of $16,899.39, and meals tax expenses of $62.93.
Thanks, Paul. Okay, now we're at the out-of-state travel proposal.
Alex, can you hear us?
Yes, I am hearing you all.
there you
Hello,
are.
good evening.
Hello, we hear
We're
you.
going to introduce Alex Waldron. She's the French teacher at Ashland High School, and she's proposing a trip to Quebec City in combination with Maynard High School next February. So Alex, I'll turn it over to you.
So thankfully, I have some really good friendships that I've established over the years with Maynard High School folks because I started my career here in Massachusetts as a teacher there. And the teacher in Maynard, the French teacher, does this trip to Quebec City for Winter Carnival, which is a really wonderful cultural experience for students to be able to partake in. And he's been doing this for several years. He does it every other year. And this past year, he was not able to get enough signups because Maynard is a very small school. And so when there are other trips going out the same year, which this is the case for this past February, it's tough for people to be able to fund several different things. So he was proposing to table it till next year. So he's going to he was wanting to propose it again. And we happened to bring it up in conversation and talk about it. And I said, that would be really fun if we could do a trip like that, because I have been teaching about Winter Carnival for many, many years. And it's a wonderful way for students to be able to go and see what this cultural experience is about, practicing their French in a real life setting. They're going to be able to, I would give them little tasks and things. Like I have all these ideas of what I want them to do while we're there. And we'd be able to join forces with this teacher group. And he's experienced with this particular company, Jump Street Tours. He says it's fantastic. They even provide nighttime chaperoning as part of the whole package. So we don't have to stay up till, I've taken many trips over the years in my career, and that's the most unfun thing to have to do but it's important to check in on the kids, make sure everybody's safe and sound all night long, so forth and so on, taping doors, all that stuff. We don't have to do that as chaperones. That is taken care of for us through this tour company. They also offer many different ways to finance this trip. There is an initial deposit of $249 per person, and then the final payment is due 60 days prior to departure. And between that, they can set up payment plans based on preference of the group. That would be something, to talk about with families, monthly payments or bi-monthly, whatever is the preference. And that would be something we could discuss with the tour operator once we have proposed different scenarios. They'll have access to a portal that will take them to Jump Street, which is the name of the tour company. It is a bus trip, so we would be leaving on the very early morning hours on a Friday, February 6th, right? I don't have the date in front of me. Where is it?
It's the 6th.
6th through 9th, yes, February 6th. So they would be picking up the Ashland students first, and then we would head to Maynard, I believe, and then we would head to on the road. And then it's a luxury motor coach. Students would arrive there sometime in the afternoon, and then we would be checking into our hotel. The hotel is not yet booked because they're waiting to see what the size of the trip would be. But then as soon as we would get that information, we would share that with you, of course. And then there's all kinds of activities that are planned as part of this wonderful cultural enrichment experience. And in between, like I said, I have these ideas for what I would like to do with the students to have them do little tasks with their French, because although it is open to anyone, of course, I would like to open it up primarily to French students first, and then based on numbers, we could open it up to anyone else who is interested. So it would be a lot of fun for the French students to be able to have these little tasks to do and practice their language skills. So they would be doing all kinds of stuff like tobogganing. That's 7:30 p.m. the first night we would arrive. They would be going to Chateau Frontenac, the area. That's the big chateau that everybody thinks about. There's a big wooden toboggan run that they would go to. And by the way, my son, who is now a senior at Maynard High, went on this trip when it was run, the last time it was run, and they had a great time. Unfortunately, that was the year, if you recall, that there was this huge freeze where it was like negative 20 degrees here, and it was like negative 50 up there. So I don't know if you remember that. That was the year we had no peaches and stuff because all the buds were frozen off in February, and it was pretty bad. So unfortunately, some of the outdoor events had to be canceled because it was too cold, even for that. The teacher, Mr. Trudeau, who was unable to be here tonight because he had a prior engagement, he has done this trip so many times, and it's like a science. Like, he knows exactly what to do, and he is very good about communicating with the parents, and that's what I would be doing as well. And he was sending us updates about the wind chill factor, and it was pretty scary stuff. It was so cold, but he has these packing lists so that everybody knows what to pack, so that they're going to be super warm. And my son had a wonderful time, even though they had to adjust the schedule and do some more indoor things. They still got to do a few outdoor things, just not as many. But generally speaking, hopefully we won't have that kind of weather this time around. And then the next day, Saturday, is a full day. So then, they get their croissant and their chocolat chaud in a quaint cafe in the morning for breakfast. And then they go explore Quebec's old city, the Quartier Petit Champlain, and then they go to the Winter Carnival. It is the opening weekend of the 2-week Winter Carnival. So the Bonhomme de Neige, who is the funny-looking big snowman, of Quebec, he's the mascot of the whole event. So if you ever go online, you can check it out. What is Winter Carnival? And then you'll see this big old snowman. He's enormous. That's the bonhomme. So they get to take pictures with him. That's like a highlight. It's going to be fun. And then they get to explore, and it's like a carnival atmosphere. It's really fun, and there's parades, and there's typical like maple sugar candy and things that they can learn how they make it, and then maybe try it, and it's just like, you know, all these different kind of cool things that are very, very authentic. Then they're gonna do like a scavenger hunt type of thing there as part of the activities in the afternoon. Fact-finding mission in Old Quebec, where language, history, and cardio skills are put to the test. Then they're going to learn some history about some of the battles that took place in the plains of Abraham in 1759 and 1760. We're going to learn about that. They're going to go into the Défilé du Carnaval, which is the parade. They're going to get to see what that's all about and have a nice dinner. So the trip cost includes breakfast and dinners as a group. We all have that together. And then the students would need to bring some spending money for on the go kind of lunches and snacks. And it's not anything that's going to be super expensive. I remember it being very manageable for my son. You know, he gave him a few bucks and he could buy his Skittles or whatever he wanted, and then have some good lunch with his friends in between. The next day is another full day Sunday. There's more activities, and they get to check out some of the other areas in the vicinity. The Côte du Beaupré, which is referred to Quebec's breadbasket, has deep agricultural roots. So we're going to learn about that. We're going to do some art, you know, observation. We're going to observe some beautiful mosaics and a replica of Michelangelo's Pietà at the Sainte-Anne de Beaupré Shrine. We're going to check out the tallest waterfalls in the province, the Montmorency Falls, and learn about some historic battles and, you know, different legends. And then we're going to go to Valcartier. That is there's some fun slides there. The avalanche, the Himalaya. Inner tube rental is included. Then they're going to go to a sugar shack, and they're going to check out the tradition of maple syrup production and the sugar shack story. And then the Arabarière du Cap, the authentic French Canadian cabane à sucre, which is the sugar shack that they're going to actually go and have a 17th century meal and get down to traditional songs and dances. And they're going to try to make their own maple butter. So the next day, then we go to the hotel. So the days usually end around 8:30 or 9 p.m. And that's where I envision having in the evenings like a little like a recap, sort of like, you know, what are some of the things that we did? And, you know, I'm going to ask them to do some journaling. So I have some ideas about how I'm going to tie the curriculum into this. And then on Monday, we get up at 7, have our breakfast, or we get to breakfast at 7. And then we're going to pack up our luggage, but then we still have some stuff going on. We're going to do some cross-country skiing and snowshoeing, have some lunch in Old Quebec, and then we're going to leave around noon, 12:30, and stops for dinner en route. Approximate time back at arrival at Maynard High, 9 p.m., and approximate time arrival at Ashland High is 9:45 p.m. on Monday, February 9th.
Then you're back.
So-
It sounds
then
amazing. And you've given us so much detail that probably my colleagues aren't going to even have any questions. Usually they're peppering people with questions, but I think you've answered all of them preemptively. So it sounds amazing.
Almost all of them.
Oh, yeah, exactly. Yeah, Mr. Kendall, I know he always has a couple
Paul
that.
always has the same question.
I know when he's going to ask
It's always
you,
the same
but-
question, right?
But I'll let him do it. I don't want to take away his thunder.
So one of the things we always ask, particularly with the trips that are on the more expensive side, is how are we messaging to kids and identifying those that might need support to make sure that not only do we offer the support, but that doesn't preclude them from even raising their hand. And you know, you think about a trip that might cost $1,000. Some kids just wouldn't even think about even asking their families for that kind of money. But we want to be able to identify them, and then even you mentioned that you might need, they will need some money during the day for lunches and things like that, and making sure we can identify those kids and provide those supports. So I don't know if you've thought about how you're going to message that and make sure we identify the ones, get everybody that's interested to raise their hand, and then we'll figure out how we can support the ones that may need it.
Yes, I absolutely totally agree with making it as equitable as possible so that everyone can partake. And I completely understand that. That's something to be careful with the messaging. Absolutely. Want everyone to feel like, if they want to do this, that there's a way. So I am going to investigate further who I would need to speak to in more detail. For example, I know, I'm not familiar with the whole procedure of that part of it yet because I'm more familiar with other districts that I've worked at in the past where I'm assuming it's something similar where you would talk to the counseling department, guidance counselors who work with students and who are familiar with situations in terms of who is eligible for free and reduced lunches and things like that, to identify students that might be on the list who are interested, and to be able to reach out and make plans. So I would definitely investigate that. In the past, I've done some little fundraising so that we have, we would fundraise for the incidentals, and to have some spending money, or to be able to cover the tips that you would want to give to the driver and that kind of thing that comes as part of this. So I've done things like the restaurant fundraisers where you go to you sign up with a restaurant, they give you a percentage of those are pretty easy. There's no overhead there. So I'm definitely open and willing to think about ways to make it something that is within the reach of every student that is interested.
Awesome.
Awesome.
And I
Thank
also
you.
I also plan on speaking to Mr. Trudeau, the teacher at Maynard High, to see what he has done in the past for some ideas.
Awesome. And Jim, this is probably more a question for you, given that it's a joint trip. I assume we'll want to, cross Corey with
We will, yeah.
with the chaperones and people that are involved from both schools.
Yeah,
right?
as I said, the department head over there is questionable,
Yeah.
just so we're clear. For those who are listening, this is my wife.
Right, and we'll each have to take our own votes, but at least in Maynard, they've taken this trip before, so they're a little bit more familiar with the trip than we are, but it sounds wonderful. We've got all the details, and we're happy to know that you're mindful of the cost and how to talk with the students. And so if there are no more questions, I'll take a motion.
Move to approve the out-of-state travel proposal for the trip to Quebec, Canada, of February 6th to the 9th of 2026, as presented.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right.
Have fun.
Thank you.
Thanks, Alex.
Okay,
Thank you
next
very
up-
much.
Thanks. Next up, we have our public hearing, FY 2026 school budget. Just before I open the hearing, I'll just remind everybody of how, what the process will be. Mr. Adams is going to fill us in on the budget process, how we got to this point. I can tell you that I'm looking out at the audience, and you probably can't see them from home, but all the administrators are here. And they have been working on this really hard all year with Mr. Adams, and we've had a number of meetings ourselves, which Mr. Adams will tell you about. Then he will present the budget. And then I do see that there are a number of people online and in the room that may want to comment. If you do, I just ask that you keep your comments to 3 minutes so that it gives everybody a chance to participate. And then the committee, we will have a discussion and a vote on the budget. So I am going to open the meeting now for the FY 2026 school budget. Mr. Adams?
Great, thank you. First, you mentioned it. Thank you to the administrative team for being here. This is a process, as you know, that really starts back in November. So we're typically in at least 2 budget cycles, sometimes 3 at the same time. And this year, in earnest, we started in November and really up through last Saturday, right? So we've had our meetings, we've had 2 school committee meetings, separate budget meetings, then we've had 2 additional meetings with what we call the tri-board, which is the select board, the finance committee, and the school committee. So we've been meeting throughout every month from November through April. And here we are today, where I can present a number to you that hopefully is acceptable, where we can then submit that to the select board as they vote next Wednesday on an overall budget that will go before town meeting. So just some, guidelines, and I mention this every year, what are we trying to do with our budget? One, we have to understand that it needs to be fiscally responsible, but meeting the needs of our kids, meeting the needs of our students. We believe in maintaining the staff and programs that we currently have, but trying to increase opportunities for kids as well and make our programs better. Sometimes we include new personnel, sometimes we don't, and we'll talk a little bit about that later on. Provide adequate funding and programming. We've got to understand we've got a lot of different buckets of how programming is funded, and we'll talk a little bit about that because I know there's concern, right? There's concern from the lens of state finances, but also the economic concerns at the country level and what could potentially happen to those funds. But also meeting our goals, right? Meeting the goals that you put forth in our mission, our vision, our core values. I always like to talk about how or what the size of the Ashland Public Schools is, because I don't think people quite fully understand the size of the organization itself. We have 379 employees, 5 schools obviously, 221 full-time teachers with $16,000, 16 and change, that funds per pupil. So the cost to fund a child, to educate a child in Ashland is about $16,000. This number is always a year behind. If people are trying to look up that data, our 2024 numbers will come out over the summer. We get about 11 million total state aid and funding. I'm going to skip over this just for sake of our objectives. Obviously, equity, social emotional learning, resource management, curriculum program. A lot of the budget stuff obviously comes under that resource management. How are we managing what we have? This cuts right to the chase for everyone watching. It's the budget I am proposing is almost a $2.5 million increase over the previous year. And that equates to a 5.95% increase. Now, this is just the number that the taxpayers vote on. This is not what it costs to operate the Ashland Public Schools, which the next slide will show you that. This is what we're asking the taxpayers to help fund. And as you can see, and I want to be, clear about the gratitude that I personally have, and I think, and speaking on, if I can, on behalf of the school committee and the administrative team, and I mentioned this at our admin meeting on Tuesday, we are a very fortunate community in terms of education and how the town views our education and their willingness to fund education. A 6% increase without asking for that dreaded word, the override, is an amazing accomplishment within a community. And if you look, 4.83, 6.08, 4.8, we are consistently in that 4 and up range. Well over. It's closer to 5 every single year since I've been superintendent. Mike, can you let some of those people in? Thanks. So that goes to show, that relationship that I think the school committee has built with the finance committee, the select board, and Michael Herbert, the town manager. We've been able to fund many of our programs. And I'm very thankful for them. This number that you're seeing is a number that through conversations with the select board and the finance committee and the school committee is a number that we came about on Saturday as the tri-board, as the 3 groups. This is a number that I presented and that they actually fully supported. And I want to make that clear. This slide here, Mr. Kyra gets a little, looking at the slide. 79% is greater than half of the pie, if you will. But his OCD kicked in yesterday. He's like, Jim, and honestly, I couldn't quite figure out how to adjust the pie. Okay, I can get the actual percentages in there. I mean, right, so if his eyes turn away, it's my fault. But, you know, a little bit of levity, right, 51. Actually, our salaries are about 79%, almost 80%, right? That's what it is. With 15% going to contracted services, that's a lot of different things that make that up, but out-of-district special education costs are included in there. We have transportation, technology, et cetera. But the number, and it might be hard to read on the screen, that I really want to point to is that $48,787,000. That's what it's truly costing to run the Ashland Public Schools. Because the budget we're asking for at town meeting is that 44.5. That is what the taxpayers are paying for. The remaining, you know, funds to pay for the school come from federal entitlement grants. They come from school choice. They come from fees that we charge families for transportation. They come from state aid. So there are a lot of different things that come into this. There is a fear that things such as Title I, Title II, Title III, Title IV, the ESSER, the IDEA money, which is for special education, and they fund a lot of salary positions. So they fund them. There's concern that those funds could go away under the current, presidency in terms of what they're looking at in terms of the Department of Ed and the funding if districts and states don't fall in line with their beliefs. I'm not quite concerned for FY26. I would be more concerned about FY27. Our numbers, we're about $1 million, $1.2 million is what we rely on. And if those funds go away, we will have to figure out how to absorb that in our current operating budget. Because those are salaried positions. Those are teachers. Those are educators. Title I, for instance, a math teacher who's helping our students progress because they're not at grade level or whatever it might be. It's an important thing to look at. But like I said, for this year, I think we're going to be okay.
Just, John, on this slide, Jim.
Sorry.
Chapter 70.
Yeah.
That's part of
That's
the
part of the correct.
So just be clear on.
Sorry, let me be clear. The Chapter 70 funding, which is the state aid that comes in, is part of that 44. But it's the school choice, it's the federal grants, and the state grants. Those numbers there are not part of that overall number. We've already taken them out, if you will. Now, this is a crazy screen that you can't read, probably sitting in the audience who are here. But the one thing in my 11 years is I've tried to be as detailed and as, for lack of that term everyone hates to love, loves to hate, is transparent. But I think it's important. I think it's important that folks know where we are and how we're getting to that bottom line number. And for me, I'm going to just try to move this out of the way, Mike, because people are trying to get in. They were on my screen. All right. It's all right. No worries. No padac about it. We're good. Okay. Not anymore. It was. I just took care of it. We're good. I know. Okay. So when we look at this stuff, again, 80% relates to salaries. And we have contractual obligations. We have 5 unions that we negotiated contracts last year. So they're in year 1 of 3-year contracts. So all 5 of them are in that first year. So next year, we're taking into account all of the salaries, the cost of living increases, teachers and other professionals within the community within the education community go from steps and lanes. So steps meaning years of experience, they're going down. Lanes meaning professional development that they may have received, so they move over possibly. So if they go from a bachelor's degree to a master's degree, they're getting more money. And so those are all things that we factor in to the steps and lanes in the negotiated contracts. But what we also do is we know that there are folks who are retiring. And we have to take into account when they're retiring, are we able to hire a position at a lesser cost than that individual retiring? And the answer is, for the most part, yes. Not always. I think it's important to understand that there are certain teaching positions that we're not going to be able to replace at a lower cost. And I always use like physics or chemistry. Not that we're doing that this year, but those are positions that typically most folks are coming in with really advanced degrees and with a lot of experience. Therefore, you're not hiring someone at a bachelor's degree coming out of a university or, so that's something we have to look at. And I know the principals are always, we want to hire the best people. That being said, we've got to be thoughtful and conscientious of our salaries and our budgets, because we don't have revenue sources, streams, right? We're not making widgets increasing the number that we're making. So then there's out-of-district tuition. You'll see we have a decrease in our number, and Brittany's here, and we have done a great job of building programs internally. But that doesn't mean we can always educate all of our students in the district. We try. We want our students to be with us. But sometimes it's just not possible. And many of the costs are to private schools, where you'll see 2 years ago, they had a 14 to 18% increase in their own pricing that they were allowed to do at the state level, which gets pushed down to local districts. So we've got about a $557,000 increase. And, it's one of those things, it's a moving target. This could change dramatically tomorrow. We could have, students move out, thus reducing that number. We could have students move in, thus increasing that. Or we could have students who are currently in the district who have been working hard, and we just haven't found the right fit for them. And we just have to understand that is something that is always out there. Erin LaChapelle, obviously she's been here twice maybe already, 3 times,
But who's counting?
talking about the Ashland Middle School schedule. And that was her big charge at the beginning of the year, and she's still with us at least. I'm thankful for that. But it came with some potential savings. And I want to stress that the folks who are part of those half teams, no one lost a job because of our change in our schedule. We had retirements in different buildings, as well as one in the high school, one in the middle school, where the teachers who were part of those teams were able to go into those positions. So, but there's a savings because the retirement of the teachers who were leaving, we didn't replace with someone outside and keep that position. So it was 2 full-time teaching staff. District-wide, we're looking at reducing about 16 positions in this budget. This is not, to a tune of $630,000. Our communications director, Esmer Casas, that position we eliminated. We have paraprofessionals that are some that we had positions in the past where we didn't fill the role, so they were on our books, and we've moved them off in this budget. That doesn't mean in September the principals in Brittany might come to me and say, hey, we've got needs, and we've done that in the past where we've had to add. But to our best analysis at this point in time, we've got this flexibility. In addition to that, we're moving more to a model of moving away from our dual certified teacher model at that Warren and Mendez, which is where a teacher who is special ed certified as well as general certification is the special ed liaison for students within their classroom, and they have an ESP attached to that room. We're moving to the model we have more at the middle and the high school, where there's a special education certified teacher who is attached to the building and or grade level. We believe it's going to be better for our students. In the first year, we've had this conversation. In the first couple of years, it might be a cost savings, but in long run, it may not, because of the way teacher salaries escalate more quickly than ESPs. But we believe it's the best model for our kids. You'll see we also have some new personnel, partly because of the needs of our students, special education teacher at the high school, Mendez special education teacher in the Warren. That relates directly to the ESP positions that we're removing, we're replacing them with special education teachers. Okay, so that's that model. Increasing OT and speech language. There's, oh, you know what's not up there? Do I see it, Jenna? Yeah, the band. We do have a band. It's I just caught it myself. Yeah, we do, and I know it's factored into the overall number. So there's a band position, just so we're clear, at the Mendez School, because with the scheduling change at the middle school, there's going to be another full-time band music person at the middle school. We backfilled another full-time position, giving more opportunities for Mendez kids. So that is in there. I've looked at this 15 times. Yeah, I swear it's in there. There's another slide that shows it's in there, but I apologize.
As long as it's accounted for.
Yeah, it's accounted for.
That's the question.
It is.
The 337 figure is accurate.
Yes. Yeah. So increase in facilities expenses, obviously running the buildings, heat, trash removal, overtime hours, things of that nature. Increase in technology. We have site licenses for many of our buildings and student software, et cetera. That goes up every year. The next big line item is at $776,000, transportation. Last year, to balance the budget, we looked at our transportation revolving account, and we decided we needed to utilize those funds to help, in the end, balance our budget. We're trying to put that money back into the overall operating budget. So that's what that's doing here, is less reliance on revolving funds. So in the end, it's the $44,350,743 is what we're looking for in terms of the budget. I think it's important to talk about student enrollment and where we are. And we're flat right now, and we're projected to be flat over the next couple of years. We had a 12% increase over the first 6 years of my superintendency, and we're still wondering. Pete still says to me all the time, where are all the kindergarten kids? Where are the first grade kids? Because we have low numbers, 183. We're projecting similarly those numbers for next year. We initially, about 2 years ago, were expecting 205 to 210. So we don't know what's happening, to be honest. And when we use projections from this company, NASDAQ, they're not perfect. But you can see coming out of COVID, we increased a lot. We had one more big year in 23, 24. And this matters to us because the state aid is tied into enrollment, but it's also tied into how we identify our students. Are the English language learning students, special education students, low-income students, and it matters in terms of our funding.
Can I just go back a paragraph for a second? I was looking at the increased personnel number we talked about in the Mendez band position. The numbers in that block do add up to 337.
Yeah.
And so I just want to make sure that the final.
Final number is correct.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's 0.5 and a 0.5 currently.
Right.
So essentially it's a 1.0. If you look at the 192K and 2 full-time teaching staff, it's the movement within all that is like 4 different line items.
So when it drops to the bottom line.
Yeah, and I'll show you that in a second. And that's why we moved it out of there, Chris. It's in the next slide. We moved it out of that new personnel as part of the scheduling change.
Yes, otherwise if we added it in there,
It's right.
line item, it would
Mark,
be more money.
it's right here.
Right, right.
It's on this slide. And I knew I always account for everything. It's there. Why do I doubt myself? No. So, so because of the new schedule change at the middle school, we're adding a wellness position and a unified arts position. And again, folks would be like, why do you get so granular? $63,000, $63,004. Well, that's our contract. And so we sort of slide in the numbers that we have based on master's degree 2. That's what is that right, Chris? That's the number? Okay. So we've got 2 positions. Well, we also had a reduction of 2 world language positions at the middle school. We have a retiree who's been working with us, and then the way we're working with world language is, if people were following along throughout the year, we've struggled filling these positions. So the schedule itself will move to the ability to have some French experience at the middle school, but 8th grade will become primarily a Spanish 1, like you would get at the high school, that curricula. So we're moving in that direction. Band moves to full-time. How does this impact? That's the Mendez band position. It's here, folks. It's here. It's here. Thanks, Mark. Reduction of an EL teaching position. We have movement across the district every single year in terms of the number of students who are in English language acquisition. Well, we have a retirement. And because of that retirement, we don't need to fill that position. We can move people within the district. So it's really, in effect, a retirement savings. We have a retirement of special education inclusion teacher. Again, I talked about that position. We had someone who was in the middle school who can take on that role. So we had already accounted for their salary, but we can back out the salary of the person who's retiring. So there's a lot of, like I said, there's a lot of moving parts to this that, I sometimes will call the principals and say, are you sure we've got everybody accounted for? And call Chris the same way, but we feel really good about this. But there's the savings for that. The one thing I didn't talk about on the slide with all the positions was a staffing proposal at Pitaway, which we've talked about here publicly. Sarah's done a heck of a job at Pitaway. But it's a job that really, after how many years now? 6? Yeah. After 6 years, what we know is the needs of our community, the needs of our kids, the needs of our teachers is just too much for one individual to be the special education coordinator in that building, to do testing, to do training, to teach, to run meetings, in addition to being the principal, if you will, of the building. And evaluating staff, managing the day-to-day aspect of it. So we sat, and this is one of the proposals that Sarah had given us, and we think it's the right move. It's having a full-time director while having the special ed coordinator position. It's the model we had 6 years ago. And we gave this a go, but we feel this is the right time again to switch back. You've heard me say, if we had space, it'd be great to have the pre-K attached to another building, most likely a Warren, where the principal of that building becomes the principal of the pre-K as well. So it's part of, we're acknowledging $75,000 within the operating budget, and the other 25 would come from the revolving account from tuition-paying students. Mendez, we just talked about this, full-time band teacher. I don't want to belabor the point, but the folks in Ashland, you get your money's worth. I mean, that's the bottom line. We're at $16,239 per pupil. I will tell you, Holliston, they're below us. They will move ahead of us next year. They passed an override this past year for the first time in a while. A number of those districts have passed overrides. Obviously, we have not, and we're not looking for one. I don't want to belabor the point, but every year
We've hovered in that same
we have been in the
general
bottom
spot
10%
for a decade
of per
at least.
pupil spending since I've been here in 16 years.
Jim, just for anybody who's
Sure.
Looking at
sorry.
this presentation later, the chart you've got up there shows FY23 numbers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Again,
Are these the most current?
these are the most current that the Department of Ed shares with us. The FY24 numbers will come out in the fall because all the work Chris is doing with the audits and making sure all that data is into the department before they can calculate it. It's a year behind, well, 2 years behind. I talked about that special education number. Again, we're decreasing the number of students. It's just the cost of some of these programs are great. And that's the reality. It's up 19.5% from the previous year in terms of the cost. But our student population went down. And we're really, looking at this. We're constantly looking at this. I can tell you, Brittany emails me every single day about this. And we're working hard at, again, identifying and making sure the kiddos that we have are in the proper place. Some belong with us. Some we can't do the best for those families and those students. And, we just have to recognize that. This is the slide that scares me every year because we are heavily reliant upon one-time funds, right? We're heavily relying upon building rentals, international tuition, school bus revolving, and school choice. And I'll just talk to these a little bit. Circuit breaker, for those who are listening, this is a reimbursement that the state sends to districts for their special education students who are educated outside of your community. And I try to keep it really simple in terms of the formula, but let's assume a student costs $100,000 to educate outside of the town of Ashland. And the per pupil cost, according to the state, is say $10,000. And so at 4 times that 10,000, so 40,000, the first 40,000 the district is responsible for. So that leaves a delta of 60,000. Well, the state, that's the piece that the state would reimburse. And sometimes they fully fund it. Well, fully funded and reimbursement is 75% under Mass General Law. The note I got today from the state Senate is we don't know if it'll be fully funded next year. I've seen it, probably Kelly, you've seen it as low as 25%. So just think about that. Let's assume that 60,000 was reimbursed at 70%, because I can only do the math easier. That's 42,000. So there's still another 18,000 that's out there that the district is responsible for. So now that 40 plus the 18 is 58,000. That's how it works. So every child, we have to go through that calculation. So this is always a year in arrears. So we know we have this money, the 1653, 724. Building rental. I want to be clear to folks who are listening, because I know I've had emails, and we don't rent fields. The fields are not rented by or through the Ashland Public Schools. All field rentals go through the town Department of Public Works. Many years ago, it was probably 11 years ago actually, when we had then town manager Tony Schiavi, the town took over all field rentals. And so they have an enterprise fund that they utilize, that they collect the field rentals, et cetera. So we don't have those funds to pay for school-related concerns. We have building rental revenue that we do get, and we can utilize that for anything that relates to the building. So it can be custodial fees, it could be, fixing floors, lockers, whatever it might be, but it has to specifically relate to the buildings. International tuition, we used to have students pre-COVID where we tuition students in. You can see we're utilizing that money this year to help offset salaries. School bus revolving, for those families who pay a bus fee, this is where it is. Last year you could see we anticipated spending $1 million out of those funds. This year we're reducing it to $300,000, which is traditionally where we've been. But we needed to do it last year to balance the budget. And then school choice, we'll talk about this later. School choice are funds that come into a district for students who live in another community, who attend schools in the Ashland Public Schools. And it's $5,000 a student. Now, if a student has an IEP or ELL services, English language services, we do get some monies from that sending community to offset the additional needs. You can see we're relying upon that for $1 million next year. That number will continue to go down. We're anticipating 200,000 in revenue. So just extrapolate it out over a couple of years, those funds will be gone. That being said, we typically budget about 500,000 in school choice funds to be utilized. School choice can be used for anything that impacts the district. So we have full discretion on how we spend those funds. I know you've all seen this. Questions on that after if you want. So this is a slide. I am always hesitant, but I think it's important that the community understands the picture of where we are and the things that we have not included in this budget that are necessary. And there are components of this, and this is not in rank order, I want to be clear. This does not mean the first thing, if you gave me $100,000, the first thing we're going to do is add an elective teacher at the high school. Because I'm telling you, that's not the first thing we're going to do, right? I mean, you'd have to flip it around a little bit, and you'd have to say, okay, what's the most important component for safety of our students, right? What do we need to do to ensure our students are safe and have buildings that aren't leaking? They have heat in their buildings. Those are priority items. I just list them as I was going through previous iterations of our budget, not only from this year, but from the past 5 years. You'll notice things like the gym floor at the middle school. We know it's dangerous. It's unsafe, it's slippery. It's something that hasn't been replaced that needs to be replaced. Is it something we can replace within our budget? Those are conversations that Chris and I are having, then that we will propose to the school committee that's the first thing we take care of, if we can do that within our budget. Meaning, could we use building rental funds if we have additional funding there? We have capital that the town has appropriated to the public schools for items that may not be able to be done this year, but so could we reallocate those funds to take some things off from this list? And this is not all inclusive. I also want to, mention that we've probably got another 20 items that easily could be added to this list. But when we get into turf replacement, things of that nature, I want to caution and just talk to folks as plainly as I can. The Ashland Public Schools does not have a capital line item. We don't have that line item. We don't have access to the revolving funds that come in through rentals, through field rentals. I know because I was the one at the high school when the high school built the fields 15 years ago, what the intent of the enterprise fund was for renting out our turf fields. It was to gain enough revenue that in 10 years down the road, we could replace whatever that field was. It didn't work out that way for lots of reasons. One, COVID hit. Two, other communities built turf fields. And three, I believe because we have grown exponentially as a community, also in this time, we have many more sports and youth sports and activities that are utilizing and need to utilize our fields. And so we've actually had a decrease in the amount of rentals as well. But I just want to caution folks, this is important. It's a safety issue too. And we have to figure out how to do this as a community. It's on my list. It's in the school anticipated needs beyond, because from 7 in the morning till whenever that last group is off the field or any of the fields, they're school property. And our kids potentially could be unsafe. And that's why it's here. I don't have the purse strings, if you will, to fix this. Otherwise, I would. Our budget that we're showing is truly an operating budget of the school system. You may ask, okay, what about athletics? Aren't you funding athletics? And we do. with user fees, but they cover just enough to cover not even transportation, but coaching salaries are picked up in the operating budget, transportation, uniforms. We're utilizing $250,000, $300,000 every year in school choice to help get athletics through. That's significant. Modular replacement, again, if you ask me, how do I rank order? See that boiler at Pitaway? Probably number one. We got to have heat. Roof replacement at the Pitaway and the high school. The high school's 20 years old, believe it or not, and I still hear people say the new high school. Yeah, it's new, 20 years ago. And we have concerns about failing roofs at Pitaway and the high school. Abhishek, you've probably never seen any drips in that high school. Only a few, right? So, again, as we look at things, we are trying to pluck things off this list the best we can. At town meeting, you know, in the fall, and when they start, in the fall town meeting, we figure out how much free cash is available, and then it's divvied up into a variety of buckets. Some of it goes to capital, and Chris and John Murray, our director of facilities, they meet regularly with town management to determine, okay, what should be on the capital list from the school side. And then they rank order them and try to figure out what's the best way, always keeping in mind safety, number one, making sure we can open our buildings. You know the story we had at the beginning of the year, and many people don't know it, about the fire alarm, or fire at the high school, right? Failing throughout the summer and trying to figure out how are we going to open the building. It's $425,000 to replace that this year. Unexpected cost. That's what we're doing this summer. But those are things that we have to be thoughtful of. We couldn't open the building otherwise. So, budget timeline, again, it is a quick turnaround for you all, but I feel comfortable because we've seen the numbers, we've been through the numbers with the tri-board, with the select board, with the finance committee. They're fully on board with the number I asked you to approve tonight. So I will sit down and take questions, or stand and take questions, but if folks want to have questions, I should probably sit.
Yeah, I think so people can come up to the microphone, and
Or
anyone
also
who
online,
is
too.
online as well. I'll start with anybody. Is there anybody in the room who would like to offer any public comment first? If you wouldn't mind coming up so we can see you and hear you, please. And then I'll move to the folks online who might want to participate as well next.
My name is Diane. Good evening. My name is Diane Umholtz, and this is Heidi Hansen.
Hello.
We're with the Ashland Music Association, and we want to start by saying thank you to all of you and to the administrators. Looking at these numbers, this is not an easy job, and it represents a multitude of hours that you've put into it. So thank you for all that you've put into making our schools a bargain, excuse me, as was displayed on that slide. Thank you. So Heidi had pulled together some numbers that we just wanted to make you aware of regarding the music program. Oh, and oh my goodness, we're absolutely thrilled about the changes at the middle school. Thank you, thank you, thank you for just elevating the music programs. And as you saw today, we were just so excited with all the awards that our music programs took this past weekend. We were just absolutely thrilled.
So proud. Yeah.
Yes, very proud. So thank you very much for the changes that were made to for the music programs at the middle school. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes. And I don't know if you've heard, but the middle school wind ensemble, who also won a gold this weekend, is getting an opportunity to perform at the Groton Hill Music Center on Sunday.
Amazing.
I'm personally proud. My son is going to be there on stage, and I could not be more thrilled and elated. So again, thank you for the investment in that music education. And as you may or may not know, the Ashland Music Association provides funding to support those programs that are not included, expenses that are not included in that very lofty budget. And so we have made an effort, Jim, thank you for meeting with us, to help make visible what some of those expenses are, because honestly, I think that they haven't been visible in the past. And just a couple of things. If we think about all those capital expenditures, that's a lofty list. There's a few things that we just ask for consideration as you move forward. And one of those is the AMA has donated instruments to the schools, the school-owned instruments. The maintenance and repair of those we spend about $6,000 a year. It seems like such a small number when you look at all of that, but that goes, we raise money from parents and through grants to fund that. Consideration for some funding in that space would make a huge difference and allow the AMA to focus our funds on providing new instruments or donating new instruments and opportunities such as we had this last weekend for students. So that's the only other thing that we ask for consideration, which is a very tough job. I keep pointing up here because that's where I was looking. But we just want to say thank you and express our gratitude and appreciation and for your support of the music programs.
And thank you for your comments. I mean, that is the point of the budget hearing, for us to hear things like that, and for consideration as we move forward and figure out how it fits into the whole picture.
Yeah.
So I appreciate that.
It's a tough job. I totally get it. So thank you.
Thank you very much. And congratulations to all of the winners of awards and to the teachers who are working with them and the parents who are supporting them. So, okay, anybody else in here before I move to any online comments?
Jim, I have a question, actually. You mentioned that the school bus revolving expenditures for 2025 is going to be around $1 million when it's typically around $300,000. Do you know why that is? And
Yeah.
if so, why?
Sorry. I do. So last year during the budget process, we've accumulated a number of dollars over the course of, say, 10 years through the bus revolving account. So we would typically just use 300,000 from year to year to year. But last year we looked at our budget and said, how are we going to balance this? And we had some excess funds in there, so we utilized those. That's what made it the $1 million. This year going back to 300,000, we easily could have used another, not easily, I mean, meaning to balance the budget, $1 million to pull out of there. We didn't have that same amount of funds to do that, but we had that last year. We had the ability to do that without asking the community to pay for more. But yeah, it's a lot. Buses are probably $78,000 to $80,000 per, and that doesn't include any athletic transportation. That's just their daily runs. So it's pretty expensive. And we have very few, so when we have opportunities to have transportation companies bid, meaning to go out and say, hey, we will take Ashland as their routes, we typically get this many. To say it's interesting out there in the transportation world would be an understatement. So but that's what we get. We get one bid.
And what were the results of spending that $1 million compared to the 300,000?
Oh, the balance
Yeah.
budget. That's all it was. Yeah.
Yeah.
It wasn't anything. Yeah, it was nothing special. We didn't have to cut anything. It could have been teachers. It could have been other things for sure, or more utilization of school choice money. But school choice is something we can always move forward in terms of any. Again, you got to be strategic in how you utilize funds. Transportation is only for transportation. I can't use those funds for anything else.
So every year, to keep things the way they were the year before, it's called level service. So to have the same amount of teachers and the same amount of services doesn't cost the same amount of money. Once you get into the next year, it usually costs more money because we've negotiated a teacher contract where there are raises. I would say that's probably the biggest expense that goes up. Other heating, building, but just to keep it level, just to keep the same services that we had the year before, we have to spend more money than we spent the year before, and that's without changing anything. So there has to be some kind of mechanism to get that extra money. So that's either done by cutting positions, and then you're not at level service anymore, or it's through looking at our budget and seeing where there might be savings. Sometimes it's through retirements, And if you can't get there that way, then you have to start looking at our revolving accounts and see which ones can be used to offset that so that we don't have to go below the level service. Does that make sense? Yeah. Okay, so I'm going to look at the folks online, and I guess the
Just
best
raise their hand.
way to let me know, yes, if you could. Sure. Oh, I'm sorry. Yes,
yeah,
of
yeah,
course.
please. Yeah, first, yeah.
We have a couple more people in here. No, you don't
Yeah.
need to be. I just didn't know that you wanted to come up.
Sorry.
Yes,
Yeah,
please.
We didn't. Hi, my name is Liz Ackley. I have two boys that are at the middle school. And I'm on the AYB, the Ashland Youth Basketball League board, along with Laura Unoni, who's the president. And I just wanted to present to the group that we're very much in favor of the athletic fields at the middle school being fixed, as well as the basketball courts, because those very much affect our program, which serves about 500 youths from first grade through 8th grade. We had about 45 different teams between in-town and travel serving the youth through, we started in October and we just wrapped up the season. So it's been a really great league, and we have been some of the contributors to that fund of paying for the rental space, but so we're in favor of that, and we just wanted to voice that.
So the gym floor especially, I think, so Lori Inoni, the president of Ashland Youth Basketball, I've talked to some of the people in this room about the floor safety. We've had some injuries this year due to player safety of the floor. I think we all know it's in kind of disrepair at this point. So we're hoping that, I know it's a big number. I know $150,000 is a lot, but we have close to 500 youth kids in our program throughout these months. Obviously, the winter months in New England, it's a big impact. If we take one gym offline, we've talked about, it's not to the point of player safety that I think it should be taken offline, but it's pretty close. And if we're taking that gym offline, it's going to really negatively impact the youth of this town. So just wanted anything we can do to, we just wanted to bring it to your attention. Anything we can do to help you, we're willing to hear all, different, we've kind of approached different people in this room. So just wanted to know you have the support of us.
No, and again, that's the point of the hearing, and it's a good time for me to mention also that I think we as a committee did receive a few letters within the last couple days along the same lines. I just want to, if you're listening, folks that sent us letters, we've all seen them. It's very similar input, a concern for the fields and the safety of the floor, and everyone has seen those letters, and there's, hopefully Mr. Adams made clear tonight, there's different funding mechanisms involved in, the floor in our building is one thing and then the fields are another. All of them involve some assistance from the town, probably on a capital basis because of not being able to pull so much money out of our operating budget, and also because of the way it was set up years ago, but so that's kind of where it stands right now, but you're not the only ones with the concern. And we share your concern. I mean, we're not sitting here saying that those spaces are okay.
So
right?
Jim and Lori, I guess logistically, because I think a lot of people on the phone are share the things that you brought up with the turf or the fields or and there's a lot of us who want to, do something. Can we just tell everyone publicly, what the mechanisms are, what meetings should they go to advocate for, the capital needs, including town meetings, select board, how do people get on agendas, and then how does that come back to the school committee? Because I think a lot of people feel like they go to one place, then they go to another place. So I'd be remiss not to bring up, what's the mechanism for people in the town, who want to voice a concern to follow.
Yeah, and Jim and Chris can add in, but I know, at least for the bigger capital projects, right? Jim, you touched on it a little bit when you were talking, but the process has been for a while now. I mean, a lot of this history goes way back from when the fields were turned over to the town, and there was a field committee at one point, many years ago, which has since dissolved. And that committee had people on there from the schools and from the town, and that's where all these kinds of discussions took place. Now that that's no longer a thing, I think it's more of it's a process that occurs, but it's not committee. I think it's Chris, maybe, or is it you, Chris, and some people on the town side that get together and take a look at the list of capital needs and the list of money available, and they make some effort to prioritize the needs across the entire town. Like Jim was pointing out earlier, like the boiler is going to have to come before some other things perhaps. So it's that kind of a conversation. So certainly going to town meeting, like letting people know that that is something that is your priority and that you would like to know where they believe it stands on the priority list and more information about that. Going to the select board. When it comes to those bigger capital expenses, we do not have a line in our budget for capital. So anytime we're asking for anything, it's through that process that involves a yay or nay from the town, right? And in the group of people, yeah.
I mean, I think one thing just to clarify on that is when the town meeting appropriates money for capital expenditures, it appropriates an amount for capital but not project specific.
Right.
So in terms of making sure specific people know what's important to you, and this goes for anybody on camera or anywhere, that there's this collaborative process of representatives from the school department, but also the town, that try to prioritize where the limited capital dollars are going to go in a given year.
Right.
So I don't know, I'm kind of looking,
Right.
Jim, to you.
It's limited somehow,
Is
so how it
Is
works.
the town manager's office where some of that feedback needs to go? Is it the selectmen?
I mean, I'd say both,
but-
yeah.
So I mean, I'll defer to Chris, as he's the one who's particularly invested in the capital process with the town and with the assistant town manager and the DPW, as well as our director of facilities. But in the end, should we want to invest more funds in our fields and in our community for whether it's youth sports, the fields for, excuse me, the schools, it all starts with the capital, and it all starts really with what's going to be allocated through the town. And I think it's always important to go to a select board meeting, go to a FinCom meeting, go to meetings and say, ask to be put on the agenda, and say, these are our concerns within the community. I know there was the community planning process that was going on, and there's a recreation component of that. I don't know where that's headed, but those are avenues to have a voice. And I think sometimes the voice doesn't always get heard if you're not participating in those roundtables, if you will. But certainly the town manager, I mean, listen, Chris and I and Mike have had these conversations. You got two people who have youth children in the youth programs. We get it, and I understand it, and we want to support it. But we don't have that capacity unless the town gives us the capacity. That's where it comes from.
Yeah, and I would just add, so definitely reach out to select board, town manager, but also reach out to listen, because we know we can articulate a lot of the needs on the schools, and they're real, as you know, but there's also real municipal concerns too, right? You know, and during our tri-board meetings, they're talking about the need for a third ambulance. Right now, routinely, 50% of the time, both ambulances are out, and so if we had another call where, you know, mutual aid, and we have a lot of demographics in the community that have fear for that. So there's real needs, and so it's striking that right balance, and these are big priorities, and they're town assets, right? So you know, they're for the school during the school day and during school programs, but they're you know, first and foremost also town assets. So it's important. So I would definitely recommend select board. You can send it to finance committee, because they're involved in some of those conversations as well as, and go there to voice your opinions and make sure you're heard, but also listen to. It's not as one-sided, because we can articulate a long list, but I can guarantee you the town departments could articulate probably an equally long list, and all of it's important. So.
Right, it's all important, so like the big part of the discussion is how do we get to, you know, the list and how it should be ordered. But the other thing is, and we did talk about this a little bit at our tri-board, and this is a conversation for every single person that's involved in this community, whether you want a better music program or better fields or better, more teachers and more electives. Like, we need to start having some real discussions about what we want as a community, who we are, and what we're willing to do that, because at the end of the day, every single thing on that list is important, and the truth is there's not enough money to do all of those things. There might not even be enough money to do half of those things, and there might not ever be enough money to do half of those things if we don't figure out some other way to operate, because there are only a certain amount of taxes coming in and certain amount of fees or whatever else they collect. And it's like our own family budgets. You know, at the end of the day, as badly as we need it, there's not necessarily a financial ability. And I'm not saying what it is. I mean, obviously there are things that we do and can take off the list. But there's also a bigger conversation, I think, about, you know, what are the priorities of all of us in town? And are we willing to start talking about, you know, overrides and things like that? I know that's a curse word, but, you know, otherwise we go round and round like this every single year.
Right, and I think our point of just we understand you guys are in a, you know, a difficult situation. With Ashland Youth Basketball, we do pay rental fees to rent the gym, and it goes back in. So it's, you know, we're willing to try to get as creative as possible, like knowing it's a player safety issue. How do we use the rental fees we're paying to kind of eventually, you know,
and as Jim mentioned, that in particular, we do have some funds that can help.
Yeah.
We're working on that.
It's not just going through just the capital with that.
And you guys have like people have said, we're so grateful you guys have a hard job. We're just trying to work together. As
Right, and this is not an issue of us not agreeing that it's a serious problem. We're all on the same page about like that it needs to be addressed. It's just figuring out how to get there.
All right, we didn't want to take up too much
No,
time.
that's good.
yeah, thank you.
All
But
good.
to Marcy's point, if that helped answer, you know, some of the concerns or questions that some of the folks online had, but certainly willing to keep going with whatever input anybody wants to give. So, I see people, but I don't see hands. I do want to make sure you all have your opportunity. Anybody feel like they need clarification on anything else or want to just give some input? I see a hand.
Jason. Yep.
Jason.
Hey, everybody. I'm Jason McDonald. I'm with the Ashland Youth Lacrosse, but also have coached every sport that we've all been talking about. So I think I said I had 3 kids and I've coached everything. So just, you know, same thing. On the topic of the fields, though, just help me understand, what do other towns do? How do they handle this? Is it always a town kind of thing that they're managing it and they own the budget for it? Or because we're all advocating for, you know, the best for our kids and our facilities and all that, right? And we're all paying rental fees, right? I don't think anyone's getting anything for free, and we only get it at 6:30 at night. So like it's like 12 hours of school property, right? And so we really want this we're really trying to emphasize that we want this for that. But anyway, sorry, not to belabor it, but is this normal? Is there a recommendation that we should also be advocating for if there needs something to be changed, right? We talked about field committees have decommissioned and all of that. Like, should the schools manage this? Should we be considering that in the future? Or not, I guess, simply put.
I'm going to let Mr. Adams take that one.
It's a loaded question, Jason.
Yeah.
In terms of whether the school should take it over or not.
But we've been talking.
It's a conversation that's been happening for years, and you know, you want to call me, we can sit down and talk about it. But that being said, every community is different, right? So many communities have rec programs that are really robust, and then they have folks who are part of those rec programs, so field maintenance individuals who are grooming the fields, mowing them, watering them, attending to them on a regular basis. We're not there, and some communities have it's their school department. Some don't rent out the facilities to non-community-based organizations as well, right? I mean, the notion that we're going to rent out these facilities and make enough money to replace turf and or keep them at a level that is respectable and or safe is ludicrous in my mind, because I've looked at the math. That being said, how do you infuse capital and resources through a town to ensure that you have dedicated personnel to these fields? We have one person in the public schools who is quote unquote an assistant to the athletic director, who isn't necessarily an individual who has agronomy and field understanding. And then the town's got two people. I think they pay for out of the enterprise fund of renting field space. That's clearly not enough, right? We've got a lot of fields, we've got a lot of space. There's separation between school fields and town fields. Community center, it's different than, Hunt Field. It's different than the Warren School. So it's not a simple answer and or
I
solution.
just want to make sure we advocate for the right
Yeah.
things, right?
No,
Like,
I
if
agree.
you're like, hey, we can fix this problem, there's ways of doing this if we had the jurisdiction,
Right.
like, great, let's go fight for that, right?
Right.
If it's back to like,
and
hey,
I
the
think-
town really needs to manage this, then make sure we're talking to the right people, right? And we'll stay out of your ear.
No, I don't have any here. But that being said, no, I think it's important that we have dialogue, and I think while there's really great intent on a lot of organizations, and I've been a part of it in my own community, we want, whatever we do, it's gotta be long-lasting, right? It can't just be, hey, let's go fix this because we've got a really dedicated group of parents right now who we can get this done. Okay, it's great for a Band-Aid, but how does it, long-term, it's really a community issue. It's not a school issue, it's not an athlete needs soccer, baseball, lacrosse. It's not their issue as much as it's a community issue in what we value.
Yep, no, totally agreed. Appreciate it.
Yep, of course.
Yeah, and thanks for all the clarity. We all really do appreciate it. Like, we don't often talk about things like this.
Yep.
And if you don't go to a lot of these, then you miss a lot of those details in between. But it's at that boiling point or boiling over point. Like, we really want to get out, like, who do we talk to? And you're starting to really give us that guidance, and we appreciate it. So thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Anybody else in the gallery here want to offer some final comments? Because the next thing I'll be doing is offering the committee some time to discuss and then closing the hearing after we vote. Last call? Okay. Seeing none, I'm going to open it up to the committee. I know we've had several meetings. We've had a few words tonight. Anybody else have any more concerns or comments about the budget that was presented tonight or the number that we are being asked to vote on?
No, nothing new, but just, again, it is detailed. You guys put a lot of work into that. Everyone in the room does. And I think that's why we can have good conversations at our tri-board meetings, because if they ask a question, even if it's not on the slide, it's something you can pull up, and you've all, been turning over the rocks and doing that. And I think the town has, everybody on the municipal side's been doing that as well. So just thanks for all the hard work on the municipal side as well.
I mean, I would echo that sentiment. I mean, I think a lot of people put in a lot of time, particularly this year. That's always true, but more so this year because of the challenges that I think we see as a community financially. But at the end of the day, the reason I think we're able to get to a number like the one you're presenting is because of the collaboration that exists, the overall positive intentions of everybody involved, not just in their sort of silo, but for the community as a whole. And so I think appropriate gratitude for the collaborative efforts from the town manager's office, from the Board of Selectmen, Finance Committee, school administration here, for everybody who's sitting in the room. And I think you've done an excellent job coming up with a solution given all the circumstances. And I think it's worth noting, I said this when we were talking about the middle school restructuring, but as much as we're talking about this as an economic problem, and it is, there's a lot of really good stuff that is being accomplished at the same time. I'm sorry Aaron stepped out, but I think it bears noting that there was a need and a demand driven in part by economics and in part by education. But the result that came out of that effort, I think, is something that is a notable improvement and will be for the long term for our kids, particularly at the middle school, to some degree also at the Mendez, the enhanced commitment to band there. And I think it's also worth talking about the positive rather than kind of feeling like, what are we not doing? Because that, I feel like, has been the theme of this conversation to some degree, and what more do we need to do, all of which I agree with. But I just want to recognize the efforts of all the people involved, Jim, Mike, Chris, all you folks that are sitting out here in the audience, all our principals and other administrators, again, town manager's office, FinCom. So, thank you.
And I guess while we have the audience, and I think Jason mentioned it and some other people, one of the things we did talk about at our tri-board meetings was, I mean, Jason mentioned getting the details here, but we really talked a lot about how we engage the public in the dialogue to understand not only the challenges, but also to get the priorities and the feel for what we want as a community. So if you're willing to spend some time, then that, you know, I don't know how we're gonna, you know, it's a everything we're talking about here, you're only seeing one piece of it. Everything we talked about at the tri-board is exceedingly complicated, and we've all, you know, I've been doing this for 9 years, I think you 10 years, something like that. We've all been doing this a long time, and it's complicated for us. So we're really looking to try to figure out how we have conversations about priorities with the community, and also making some of this consumable, both from the school side, but also just in general the municipal side as well, and how these things work, and that, because that merging of an opinion and priorities along with what's at play, just understanding broad strokes of how these things interplay. So if you're listening and you are willing to spend some time, hopefully that's something we can get off the ground and at least start pecking away at in building up some collateral of just some educational materials and also some dialogues there. So.
I'll just echo, I'm consistently impressed with the level of detail and dedication and amount of Saturdays people put in to coming to talk to us about what you need in the budget. And I feel like a lot of the reason we're focused on or had conversation about the capital budget tonight is because you did such an awesome job articulating the needs for the operating budget, and the level of programming that's been built into the schools and the level of cost avoidance that comes from that programming is something I didn't fully appreciate until I, you know, became more involved with the school. So I really, my hat's off to all of you, all the way from Pitaway up through the high school. You know, it starts there, and there's a lot of work, and that's the reason we don't have to hammer out details of how many teachers do we need here or there, because you told us, and you laid it out for everyone tonight. So I don't want to get lost in all the important talks about capital without acknowledging the amount of work that's gone on to, you know, come forth with a really solid operating budget that's super thoughtful, and we're blessed to have like CPAs on the school. I'll tell you, because I do this on the daily, and it's really easy to follow if you're a numbers person, and if you're not a numbers person, it's actually really easy to follow. So because you laid it out so well, so just I have to give a shout out to.
It's true. I agree with all of that, and I won't take up more of your time like regurgitating it. You know, there's the micro, and it's all the work that's been discussed here tonight. And thank you also, by the way, like a budget is a document that represents our values. And I know you all started with our goals and our vision for the district, which we also worked hard on, and that everything that you built is around that, and made sure that you could trace everything that you recommended back to that. And we're really proud of all the work you do. And that's, to me, that's kind of the micro. But then there was the macro of having these conversations with the other boards in town on the 2 Saturdays. And I think that one way that's helpful for us, and I think it's part of what's happening in this conversation tonight about some of the greater capital needs, is that we don't necessarily understand some things until we sit down with other people that aren't in our little silo here. And that probably goes in the other direction as well. Like, we're pretty clear on everything that we need because of all the hard work that we do, and we're so sure that it needs to happen. But then we sit down with other people in town who, by the way, we're all one community. I mean, we've been elected to represent schools, and other people have been elected to represent the greater town, but we're all one community, and we have to make sure everything we do fits into a vision for our entire community. And we have to understand, you know, how what we're asking necessarily affects what somebody else is asking, when just like in your own little micro family, you can't please everybody all the time. But so that's been really helpful to just, for me, I'll speak personally, but I'm pretty sure for everybody else, to just be educated on what the other needs are. We don't think about like what the police need or what the fire need or what's going on at the senior center. I'm not saying I don't care about it, but that it's not my job to really dive into that. And other people are doing that and not this. So it's not until we, and again, this is no judgment, because I raised 4 kids and I did not come up for air for like 20 years. And I did not go to a single meeting, so I'm not, but until I do, or I did, I don't really understand like all the different things that are at play and the nuance and the actual amount of money involved to do X, Y, or Z. So I think that's why it's really helpful that we have these conversations, and that please know that we are advocating for all these things as well. Like everything that's been discussed is on a list that we fight for. And it's just a matter of, you know, being considerate of other priorities and also making sure that we have ways to get money, which at the end of the day, you know, that's what we need. So again, thanks for all your hard work. And I will take a motion to vote on the budget number.
Yeah,
Close the
so
hearing
I'll
first.
move to close the hearing.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Move to approve the budget of $44,350,743 for the 2026 fiscal year as presented.
Second.
All in favor? Marcy?
Aye.
Paul?
Aye.
Aye. All right,
Good
we have a
little roll call
budget.
thing there.
I know. It's important. Okay. Thanks for all your input, everybody. We really do appreciate it. Next up, we have appointment of a school committee member to the Driscoll Scholarship Committee. Yes, everybody, you're welcome to stay, but we're not offended when you leave as soon as you possibly can. Have a good night, everyone.
Thanks again, everybody.
Thanks.
No, I was ready to go to the motion to adjourn right away.
I know,
So two
right.
more-
We're not done
things to
yet?
do.
Couple more little things.
Yeah. Driscoll, I think I did it last year. It's one meeting. It's getting together with other people on the committee. There are like 3 or 4 other people. Applications come in. I think we did it by Zoom last year, pretty quick.
Anybody
And
have
we try
interest?
to avoid people, if you have like a junior or a senior or somebody that might be applying for the scholarship, you should probably not.
I mean, I think it's really just seniors, but just knowing a number of the kids
Yeah.
now, because I had a senior, when I graduated, I've got a junior now.
Yeah.
I'd prefer not to be on this committee this year.
Okay.
I don't have an interest.
No interest.
Are you willing?
I can do it if we need someone to do it.
It's just, I mean, I don't mind doing it again. I'm just making
So
sure.
I will just say, because your daughter's same
Yeah,
age
my
as
daughter's a
mine.
junior, so I should
If
probably.
there's
I'm
one
gonna
thing
do
that is
it.
a
I
little
think I should
uncomfortable.
do it. Other than,
Perfect.
I do know.
I move to
Yeah,
appoint Lori to
it'll be
the
me.
Driscoll Scholarship.
Yeah.
Call your vote.
All in favor? Aye. Okay, it's
Do
me.
we have to appoint Mary Lou as well? Yeah, we should appoint Mary Lou. We've done that in the past.
I move to
Oh.
appoint Mary Lou Hunt to the Driscoll Scholarship Committee as well.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All right. Excellent. Ultimate Frisbee head coach athletic stipend.
Just negotiation. The ultimate frisbee, as you know, is a varsity sport now, and just recognizing the fact that it's going into our stipend position, and Chris worked with the union on that.
You've tracked whatever that stipend is to sort of matching up with other.
Correct.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
And so what's that motion that we need?
To accept the ultimate frisbee head coach athletic stipend amount. What was it? Do you remember?
Yeah, what was the number?
I don't know. $6,000, I think. Yeah.
Even?
No, $3,370, well, $4,280. I'm assuming Mosh is would be at the top. There's 3 amounts. There's 3 amounts.
Three
Yeah.
steps,
Yeah,
okay.
there's
I
3
got you.
steps, that's why.
Relates to tennis.
I move to approve the ultimate frisbee head coach athletic stipend as presented.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Just a memorandum, I should, would have been easier. Sorry.
Okay.
Yep.
I'm going to open the hearing for the school choice participation for the 2025-2026 school year.
Okay, let me pull this up because it's a little more complicated than it's been in the past.
Okay.
Yes. Still here.
Okay, so as you know, each year, as required by law, we're supposed to come before the school committee to see if the school committee will participate in school choice for the next school year. So any student who would have already been in school choice is still in school choice, but the district could say, hey, we're not going to participate moving forward. Those kids would still be allowed to be here. Traditionally, what we have done is we have looked at choice slots by grade level, and we approved them by grade level. So what you'll see on this document here, I shared with you, is this is anticipated enrollment for next year. So we're anticipating 190 at the K level. We only have like 156 that have registered currently, but we're assuming it's going to get to that number. So then it slides down. So first grade is the current kindergarten class. Okay, does that make sense to folks? And then elevators down. So in the newly enrolled students, so 24, 25, you'll notice 5, and then so go to the first grade, 5, and then parenthesis 5. So that means we had 5 slots open, and 5 filled them.
But this doesn't track ones that are current.
That is correct.
currently
These
in
are
the
just
previous
new seats that we added.
spots.
Correct.
It was just last year.
That is correct. Great question, but yes. And that's why you'll see as you get lower, like 10th grade, 5 and 0, or current 10th grade, we open up 5 spots. We have, I think, 3 students in school choice. We opened up 5 more. We didn't have anybody. So, so what I'm proposing, again, we have about a fill rate consistently of about just under 50%. So to me, a fill rate is we open up 50 seats, 50%, 25 seats across the district. We've had inquiries probably of about 15 students right now. We always set that we have to get information out to these families, whether or not we're going to participate in school choice, and they have until June 1st, and then it closes. And it's lottery based if we have more than the seats that we open up, and otherwise, if you apply and there's no lottery, you automatically get in. Doesn't mean you have to come. I'm just saying there are seats available. So you'll notice it's a market difference than I've done in the past. I'm proposing 75 total seats across the district. Knowing, again, fill rate's going to be a lot lower than that, and adding spots even to to grade levels that have higher numbers than we have in the past. And you may say, why? Again, we've had maybe 1 or 2 inquiries across some of these grades, and some of them are educators who work in the district as well. And we don't give preference to them, just so folks understand that. But, you know, I do believe if we've got educators who are in our community, I'd like to offer an opportunity, just no guarantee, but it's at least an opportunity if we allow for seats to be open. Sure. That's all. And, you know, again, there may be three grade levels that,
That was what I was.
Yeah,
Because typically, if you
yeah,
saw
typically I've done about 240, I wouldn't have done it.
There would be 0 there.
Yeah, there would be. I don't anticipate, but again, we've had movement.
Our numbers fluctuate,
Yeah,
continue to fluctuate
yeah,
like all
they
year.
fluctuate all the time.
Yep.
Listen, it's 1 year I haven't done this large of a ask before. Honestly, I look at our choice revenue. I look at, you know, it's opportunity. I also look at, is it really costing us anything to have students in those seats? The answer is really not much. If we have 242 kids spread out upon 10 classrooms, 245, it increases it by 0.3, right? So,
So Jim, just
per classroom.
If you look at that chart, and
Yep.
we can get you different colors next year.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, that's just because it came from another. Yeah.
So
Spreadsheet.
I mean, I can certainly have the mindset of, hey, look, if you're 240,
Yeah.
like really, would you want to do that?
Yeah.
But flip side is you're not proposing to add seats sixth grade, which is only 197.
No, I am.
No.
That was last year, Mark.
The far
Yeah,
column.
it's
He's-
the far column.
He's adding them everywhere.
That new enrollment, this was last year.
Yeah.
I didn't add in these words
Yeah.
blank. Yeah.
Okay.
I'm adding 5 in every grade
class,
level
and 10 in a
except
couple.
kindergarten and third grade for 10. There are 10 seats.
Okay. So I guess then the same question is framed just a little differently if the numbers are still accurate.
Yeah.
If you've got a 197 in sixth grade,
Yep.
why would you not want to offer 10 seats?
We could. We could. When I looked at under one, again, I'm predicting 190, but it's lower. I took those. I could do 20 at third grade too. It was just
Yeah,
numbers.
when you get to 20, you're talking about one per class, right?
Right.
And pretty much every class. I don't think changing the cap from 5 to 10 in any one year is likely to generate.
No.
10. Like it probably just isn't. But
Even on all those
kindergarten's
fives,
the
we
one.
still just have one person taking us up on it.
I mean,
Probably.
kindergarten's the
Or
class,
grade.
the grade level that we tend to get the most.
Yeah.
And then they stay with us forever.
Yeah.
5 for 5, 100% fill rate.
and are we confident that the projection for where we are this time of year really is showing a low number for kindergarten?
Yeah, it's on par with last year at this time.
Kids go.
We don't know.
Yeah, but it says every time.
Yeah.
Caden's grade was 183, I
Right.
think, when he was in first grade.
Right.
And
What is it now?
220
Right,
something,
right.
so.
Yeah, same.
They picked up a full class
Over time.
over that time.
And again,
period. So I don't
our
know.
biggest increase goes from third to fourth grade or second to third grade. There's 7 to 8, 10 kids a year.
Is there anybody still on Zoom that would be wanting to give input here?
What about the rest of the room, Lori?
The room has emptied,
The room has empty.
I don't think so.
but is there anybody who wants to say anything about school choice?
Claudia might, you don't know that.
She is? Yeah, okay. Any other questions? All right, I'll close, take a motion to close the hearing.
Close the school choice public hearing.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And we have a motion to accept as proposed.
Yes.
Who's got the
So
second?
moved, I got second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Excellent, thank you. Okay, first read of BGB policy adoption.
I'm sorry, I'm just trying to pull it up. So, this, of all the policies that you're gonna see, under the consent agenda, for policies, this is the only one that had any real change to it, with the policy subcommittee looked at. There's one I didn't present because we're still doing a little bit more work on security cameras. But it's not significant, but because of the red line, if you notice it, there was more than any of the others. There's a word or two different in the other policies. Probably didn't even need to do a first read, but I just felt more comfortable because it had a lot of stricken language in it.
Everyone have a chance to take a look at it?
This is just first read.
First
right?
read, yeah. So we have until next time to think about any comments or changes. And we'll show up for the second read, and all the other policies are on the consent agenda.
The other policies, the other policies are,
There was no substantive
there's no
change.
substantive change. It's just,
Right.
we reviewed it, so I just want to mark them up as reviewed, so when
Right.
they go into MASC, and that we have record of it. being
Literally, the
reviewed.
only thing changing is the line at the bottom that says last reviewed.
For the most part, yeah.
20,
It might be a
20.
the or a they or an and or a,
Right,
or a
but
reformatting,
substance.
but no substance.
Yep.
Yep. Yep. That was it.
So I'd be looking for a motion to,
Approve this consent.
Consent
agenda.
agenda, yeah.
So moved.
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And then we're at the end, reports of school committee members, starting with you, Abhishek.
Pretty much, I don't have anything. I did know Sophia did a good job presenting.
She did.
And that's pretty much all that's going on in this high school.
That's all.
The counting days until break.
Right, do you have any plans for April vacation?
Study for a lot of AP tests. So that's not.
Well, you know how to take time off.
I did go to the middle school site council, but I went 2 weeks ago, so my memory is
Yeah.
a little fuddled. But we talked about the school improvement plan, and we had a really good chat about that and what Erin's, looking to do, just seeking input. And we had a lot of discussion about the ISSPs and like improvement plans for students. And one thing she brought up was setting expectations at the different grade levels, like meaning that, they don't expect a sixth grader to act the same as an eighth grader in terms of homework or, being able to turn things back in for extra credit or retake a test. So she talked a lot about that with us, which I thought was enlightening. And she's had really good discussions with the faculty about that too, and how they're gonna roll out their new curriculum and the plan. And we did go down a path about how the science MCAS is changing, and there's gonna be more, I can't think, simulation-based, but the curriculum we have does that already, so there was a lot of excitement about that.
Okay.
So they feel well-positioned to, and Mike can probably teach us about that at some point, so.
Yeah, the change you made to Amplify, the curriculum we're using for middle school math is very much aligned with the changes that were made for MCAS. So they're utilizing those sims, and so the students have now seen it already, and they've done it, so they're ready come MCAS time at the middle school.
At the middle, yeah, so they were saying that they went, I forget what conference, I'm sorry, because I don't have my notes, but whatever conference they went to, the other teachers were like, "Oh, you're lucky because you use Amplify." So that was good. Again, just like so impressed with Erin and just bringing everyone together there, and yeah, a lot of good changes there.
Awesome. Great to hear.
I'm sure there's things I should say, but
No, there's
I can't, most of them can't come to me, so probably since the last, because I think I missed the last meeting. So we have received the IRA funding, federal funding. However, Department of Local Services from the state level had issued a memo regarding that funding that places likely restrictions on what we can do with it. We thought we would be able to do things like, things on that capital list and things like that. We're still working through with town council on what we can do with it. But it seems to, and essentially the memo, if read, the way it's being interpreted means it has to be, it's a refund or a rebate of funds that had a particular purpose, and they have to remain within the scope of that same purpose, is a way to put it in a nutshell. So we're still working through that, but we did receive it. So it was, we received what we submitted for, and in the interest from the delay. So it was $3.3 million roughly.
It's got to be a way to make good use of that money.
Yeah, it might just be paying the bond and stuff like that, which people are going to say, hey, my taxes are going to go down, but everybody's probably going to go down.
Like $1.
A little bit. It doesn't, it unfortunately doesn't have that big of an impact as it would to use it for something else.
Like a big project that we really need.
But we'll use it for what we can and make the biggest impact we can.
Awesome.
So I was fortunate to, compared to Marcy, my site council at the high school was today. Doesn't mean I can remember much more than you did for mine, but they too were talking about the site council and just kind of the improvement plan in terms of sort of what they've been working on this year, just kind of more of a review, and I think Kelly anticipates coming forward somewhere between now and the end of the school year to sort of present as they have typically, more just sort of a normal course thing than a specific agenda item. But so we talked a bit about that for about half the meeting. I think the one substantive thing that I wanted to update people on, and I missed the last meeting they had, but they had decided at the last meeting not to make a recommendation on the weighted grading issue at this point. They've kind of tabled it. It's not to say they voted not to do anything, but at this point, with a lot of other things, I think the telling comment was sort of, there are a lot of things that are causing stress in education right now. Maybe this doesn't need to be something that we try to figure out. So right now, it's just been tabled, and there were a couple of other points that were related to sort of the original purpose for looking at it, which really was all about, is there something that we can be doing differently that reduces stress and anxiety? Right? And that was part of it, was the weighted grading, forcing decisions that kids were making because of things that weren't necessarily healthy for them in the big picture. And so they're kind of more committed to looking narrowly at some of the other issues that might impact that than focus on weighted grading. So that's where they are with that. I think that was probably the highlight of what I wanted to share with folks. So, where we stand on that.
Awesome. Yeah, the Warren Site Council did meet, but I missed it, so I can't report on that. I do know that they're doing a community read day on Friday. I'm going, Tina's going, Mike, Jim, are you? Maybe?
To be determined.
To be determined, but anyhow, they've invited people from the community to come and read to the kids, so I know I'm assigned to 4 different classrooms, and I cannot wait. And that's all I got.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Adjourned.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you. Good night, everybody.